My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 34 years old. 3 weeks ago, my husband of 8 years slid divorce papers across our kitchen table and said, "Sign this and leave." He thought he had it all figured out: the house, the business, the bank accounts, everything. But I didn't panic. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I calmly flipped through the papers and asked one simple question: "Where's the postnuptial agreement page?" His lawyer's face went white. 10 seconds later, the lawyer's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, then at my husband, and said one word: "Stop." His senior partner had texted from the office. My husband called me 20 minutes later, and his hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the phone. That's when he realized he'd just made a $42 million mistake. Before we get into what happened next, if this story resonates with you, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Drop your location and the time where you are right now in the comments. I want to know where you're listening from. Let me take you back to April 8th, 2024. A Monday evening that changed everything. I walked into our Lincoln Park townhouse at 7:30 p.m. after a 14-hour day at Morrison & Fletcher LLP. I'm a partner there, Corporate Contracts Division. I just closed a $200 million merger deal and I was exhausted but satisfied. The house was too quiet. Usually, Daniel would be in his home office, on a Zoom call, or in the kitchen making one of his elaborate dinners he picked up as a pandemic hobby. But tonight, the lights were on in the kitchen, and I could hear voices. 2 voices. I set my briefcase down in the foyer and walked toward the kitchen. Daniel was sitting at our marble kitchen island. He was wearing a suit, which was strange because he usually worked from home in jeans and a hoodie. Across from him sat a man I'd never seen before. 50-ish, gray hair, expensive suit, leather briefcase open on the counter. They both stood when I walked in. "Claire," Daniel said. His voice was flat, rehearsed. "This is Stephen Kraft. He's an attorney." My eyes shifted to the stranger, then back to my husband. "Okay, why is an attorney in our kitchen on a Monday night?" Stephen Kraft extended his hand. I didn't shake it. "Mrs. Donovan, I represent your husband in a dissolution of marriage proceeding. You're here to serve me divorce papers in my own home." I set my purse down on the counter. Slowly. Deliberately. Daniel pushed a manila folder toward me. "I think it's time we both admitted this marriage is over. I've had these drawn up. Everything's fair. You just need to sign, and we can both move on." My gaze fixed on him. This man I'd been married to for 8 years. This man whose business I'd helped fund when he had nothing. This man who'd cried in my arms 3 years ago, swearing he'd never hurt me again. "Fair," I repeated. "The house is in my name," Daniel said, his confidence growing. "The business is mine. I'm offering you a settlement of $200,000 and you keep your own retirement accounts." "That's generous, Claire." Most divorce attorneys, I interrupted, would tell you to make sure you've actually read the documents you signed 3 years ago before you ambush your wife with a settlement offer. Daniel blinked. "What are you talking about?" I pulled the folder toward me and started flipping through the pages. "Petition for dissolution of marriage. Asset division schedule. Proposed settlement agreement." I read carefully. Daniel and Stephen watched me. After about 3 minutes, I looked up. "Where's the postnuptial agreement page?" The room went very still. Stephen Kraft frowned. "I'm sorry, what?" "The postnuptial agreement. The one my husband and I signed on June 15th, 2021. Drafted by Marcus Fletcher, senior family law partner at my firm. Notarized, witnessed, filed with our estate attorney. That postnuptial agreement. Where is it referenced in these divorce papers?" Daniel's face had gone pale. "Claire, that was years ago. That doesn't..." "What? Doesn't count? Doesn't apply?" I turned to Stephen Kraft. "Mr. Kraft, did my husband disclose to you that we have a postnuptial agreement that specifically governs asset division in the event of divorce?" Stephen's gaze shifted to Daniel. "Is this true?" Daniel's jaw tightened. We signed something back then, but it was just what? I kept my voice calm. Professional. This was a contract negotiation now, and I was very, very good at those. Just a legally binding agreement that supersedes any divorce settlement you tried to draw up without referencing it? Stephen Kraft pulled out his phone. Excuse me for one moment. He stepped out of the kitchen. I could hear him in the hallway, speaking in a low, urgent voice. Daniel leaned forward. Claire, come on. That postnup was about. That was a different situation. We moved past that. It doesn't apply to you cheating on me again, I said quietly. Because it absolutely does apply to that. In fact, that's exactly what it was designed for. His face went from pale to gray. Stephen Kraft came back into the kitchen. He focused on Daniel, and his expression was no longer confident. It was something closer to panic. We need to leave, now. What? Why? Daniel stood up. We're in the middle of. Stephen's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, showed it to Daniel. One word. Stop. The text was from someone named Morrison, probably a senior partner at Kraft's firm who'd just done a basic conflict check and found the postnup. Stephen started packing his briefcase. Mr. Donovan, I need to review some documents before we proceed. We'll be in touch. Wait, what the hell is going on? Daniel's voice rose. Stephen didn't answer. He nodded at me, a gesture of professional respect that spoke volumes, and walked out. I heard the front door close. Daniel and I stood in our kitchen, on opposite sides of the island, in complete silence. You should call your lawyer, I said. Tell him to read the postnuptial agreement very carefully, especially Section 4, subsection B, the part about asset division in cases of marital infidelity. I picked up my purse and walked upstairs to the guest bedroom. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Daniel. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Claire, please, we need to talk about this. His voice was shaking. Talk to your attorney, Daniel. I'll talk to mine. I hung up. Then I called Rachel Chen, my best friend and the smartest litigator I knew. Rachel, I need you to pull a document for me. Postnuptial agreement, Donovan versus Court. Donovan, dated June 15, 2021. It should be in the firm's family law archives. Marcus Fletcher was the drafting attorney. Claire, what's going on? Daniel just tried to divorce me. He forgot about the postnup. Rachel was quiet for 3 seconds. Then she started laughing. Oh my God. He actually forgot. His lawyer definitely forgot. They served me papers with a settlement offer that violates every single term of the agreement. I'll have the document on your desk by 9 a.m. Do you want me to loop in Marcus? Not yet. Let Daniel's attorney figure it out first. I want to see how long it takes. It took 18 hours. The next morning, I went to work as usual. I had a 9 a.m. call with a client in New York, a 10:30 meeting about a pharmaceutical merger, and lunch with a potential new client. At 1047 p.m., my assistant, Veronica, buzzed my office line. Claire, there's a Stephen Kraft here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's urgent. I smiled. Send him in. Stephen Kraft looked like he'd aged 5 years overnight. He was carrying a file folder, much thicker than the one from last night. Mrs. Donovan, thank you for seeing me. Mr. Kraft. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. What can I do for you? He settled into the chair and opened the folder. I owe you an apology. I did not do adequate due diligence before drafting those papers last night. I've now reviewed the postnuptial agreement you and your husband executed in 2021. And I've advised my client that the settlement offer we presented is not viable. The postnuptial agreement clearly governs asset division in this case, and its terms are significantly different from what we proposed. Significantly different, I repeated. That's one way to put it. Stephen pulled out a document. The postnup. I recognized Marcus Fletcher's drafting style immediately: thorough, specific, airtight. According to this agreement, Stephen said carefully, In the event of divorce initiated due to infidelity on the part of Daniel Donovan, you are entitled to 60% of CloudSync Solutions, the marital residence in its entirety, and a 70-30 split of all retirement and investment accounts in your favor. That's correct. Mrs. Prockley, Donovan, CloudSync Solutions is currently valued at approximately $70 million. 60% of that is $42 million. I'm aware. The house is worth $2.3 million. I know. I picked it out. Stephen closed the folder. My client is, understandably distressed by this situation. He's asking if you'd be willing to negotiate terms outside the postnuptial agreement. I leaned back in my chair. Mr. Kraft, I'm a contracts attorney. I specialize in making sure agreements are enforceable and ironclad. That postnuptial agreement was drafted by one of the best family law attorneys in Illinois and reviewed by me personally. Do you really think I'm going to negotiate against my own contract? I had to ask. Now you have your answer. Stephen stood up. We'll be filing an amended petition that acknowledges the postnuptial agreement. You should expect service within the week. I'll be ready. After he left, I settled back in my office chair, gazing out at the Chicago skyline, and let myself feel it for the first time. Not anger, not sadness, relief. Because 3 years ago, when I discovered the text messages and the hotel receipts and the lies, I'd made a choice. Not an emotional choice, a strategic one. Let me take you back to June 2021. I came home early from a business trip to New York. I was supposed to be gone until Friday, but the deal closed early, and I caught a Wednesday evening flight back to Chicago. June 2nd, 2021. I walked into our house at 10:30 p.m. Daniel wasn't home. That wasn't unusual. He often worked late at the office, especially after CloudSync had gotten their Series A funding. The company was growing fast, and Daniel was obsessed with making it succeed. I went upstairs, changed into comfortable clothes, poured a glass of wine, and sat down with my laptop to catch up on emails. Daniel's iPad was on the coffee table. We shared an iCloud account had since we got married. Messages synced across devices. A notification popped up on his iPad. Amber, last night was incredible. When can I see you again? My eyes fixed on the screen. I opened the messages, scrolled up. 6 months of messages, photos, hotel names. I miss you. Can't wait to see you Friday. Tell your wife you're working late. I sat on that couch for 2 hours reading every single message. Amber was a consultant Daniel had hired for the company. 26 years old, marketing background, worked remotely from San Francisco. The affair had started in January 2021. It was now early June. When Daniel came home at 12:30 a.m., I was still on the couch, his iPad in my lap. Claire, you're home early. I thought, sit down, Daniel. He saw the iPad, saw my face. Sat down. I can explain. I'm sure you can. But I don't want to hear it right now. Right now, I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to say. I set the iPad on the coffee table between us. You have 2 choices. 1. I file for divorce tomorrow morning. Illinois is a no-fault state, so I don't need to prove adultery. But I will anyway because I'm petty like that. We split assets 50-50, and you'll probably have to buy out my share of the house since it's in both our names. You'll keep your company, I'll keep my career, and we'll never speak again. Daniel's face was white. Claire, please. I'm not finished. Option 2. We stay married. You end things with Amber immediately, and I mean today, right now, while I'm sitting here. You go to therapy. We go to marriage counseling, and you sign a postnuptial agreement that protects me if you ever do this again. A postnup? A legal contract that says if this marriage ends because you cheat on me again, I get 60% of your company, this house, and the majority of our assets. Daniel's gaze shifted away. 60% of CloudSync? Claire, that's what it costs to betray me twice. Right now, you've betrayed me once, and I'm willing to forgive that. Once. But if you do this again, You don't get to walk away with everything we built, while I'm left with half the house and a broken marriage. You cheat again, and I get what I'm owed for the years I supported you, the money I put into your business when you had nothing, and the faith I'm giving you right now that you don't deserve." He was crying. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Claire. It was a mistake. It didn't mean anything. I love you. I'll do anything. Then you'll sign the postnup." "What if I say no?" "Then I file for divorce tomorrow. And you can explain to your investors why your Series A funding is getting complicated by a messy public divorce." Daniel wiped his face. "This feels like you don't trust me." "I don't trust you. You just spent 6 months lying to my face. But I'm willing to give you a chance to earn that trust back. The postnup is the price of that chance." He called Amber right there on speaker and ended it. She cried. He apologized. It was pathetic. The next morning, June 3rd, 2021, I called Marcus Fletcher. Marcus was 58, a partner in the family law division at Morrison and Fletcher. We'd worked together on corporate cases that had family law implications, and I respected his work. "Claire, good to hear from you. What can I do for you?" "I need you to draft a postnuptial agreement. Ironclad, enforceable in Illinois, and I need it done quickly and quietly. Are you and Daniel having problems?" "We're solving problems. Can you do it?" "Of course. Come by my office this afternoon." Marcus spent the next 12 days drafting a 15-page postnuptial agreement that covered every possible scenario. We met 3 times to review language, close loopholes, and ensure enforceability. The key provisions, Section 4, subsection B, asset division upon dissolution, due to infidelity in the event that the marriage is dissolved due to proven or admitted infidelity on the part of Daniel Joseph Donovan. The following asset division shall apply. Claire Marie Donovan shall receive 60% of all ownership interest in CloudSync Solutions, Inc., including all stock options, and future equity. The marital residence located at 2847 North Burling Street, Chicago, Illinois, shall be transferred entirely to Claire Marie Donovan. All retirement accounts shall be divided 70% to Claire Marie Donovan and 30% to Daniel Joseph Donovan. All investment and savings accounts shall be divided 65% to Claire Marie Donovan and 35% to Daniel Joseph Donovan. Neither party shall owe spousal maintenance to the other. Marcus studied me over his reading glasses. "Claire, this is very favorable to you. Daniel's attorney is going to tell him not to sign this. Daniel doesn't have an attorney. He's signing it on faith. Because if he doesn't, the marriage is over today. And if he does sign it, and then violates it later, then I'll own the majority of a company currently worth $50 million and growing. You've thought this through." "I'm a contracts attorney, Marcus. This is what I do." Daniel signed the postnuptial agreement on June 15th, 2021, in Marcus Fletcher's office. It was witnessed by 2 paralegals and notarized by the firm's notary. He cried while he signed it. "This feels like you're punishing me," he said. "I'm protecting myself," I corrected. "There's a difference." After he signed, we went to marriage counseling. Daniel went to individual therapy. He cried a lot. He promised a lot. He brought me flowers. He planned date nights. He recommitted. For a while, I thought maybe it had worked. Maybe the affair had been a wake-up call. Maybe we'd be okay. But here's the thing about men who cheat. They don't usually stop. They just get better at hiding it, or they get arrogant and think you'll never find out. In March 2023, Daniel hired an executive assistant, Jessica Monroe, 28 years old, MBA from Northwestern, originally from Indianapolis, sharp and ambitious and blonde. "She's going to be amazing," Daniel said over dinner. "Really sharp. The company's getting too big for me to manage everything myself." I met Jessica once at a company event in May 2023. She was polite, professional, perfectly pleasant. I didn't think anything of it. I was busy making partner. Morrison and Fletcher was considering me for the corporate division partnership, and I was working 100-hour weeks to prove myself. I didn't notice when Daniel started working later. I didn't notice when the business trips increased. I didn't notice when he stopped asking about my day. By the time I did notice, it was February 2024, and I was too tired to care. I'd made partner in January the youngest woman in the corporate division to do it. And I was drowning in client work. Daniel and I barely saw each other. When we did, we were polite strangers sharing a house. In early April, he started acting strange, nervous, distracted. On April 7th, a Sunday, he told me he needed to have a serious conversation. "I think we should talk about our future," he said. "Okay. I mean our future as a couple. Claire, I don't think this is working anymore." I glanced up from my laptop. "You want a divorce. I think it might be best. For both of us. We've grown apart. You're focused on your career. I'm focused on mine. We barely talk anymore." "Okay." He blinked. "Okay, if you want a divorce, get a lawyer and file the papers." "You're not going to fight it." "Daniel, I'm not going to beg you to stay married to me. If you want out, get out." He looked almost disappointed that I wasn't crying. The next night, he ambushed me with Stephen Kraft and the divorce papers, and forgot about the postnuptial agreement that was about to cost him everything. After Stephen Kraft left my office that Tuesday afternoon, I called Rachel. "He's going to file an amended petition acknowledging the postnup, which means we're going to discovery. I need you to find out who he's cheating with." "You think there's someone else?" "I know there is. I can smell her perfume on his shirts. Find out who." Rachel was a litigator. She knew investigators. It took her 3 days. "Jessica Monroe," Rachel said, dropping a file folder on my desk Friday afternoon. "Executive assistant at CloudSync, age 28, from Indianapolis. They've been having an affair since July 2023. And Claire? She's pregnant." I opened the folder. Photos of Daniel and Jessica at restaurants, hotels, walking through Millennium Park. Text message records. Credit card receipts. How pregnant? 3 months. Conceived in January. I settled back in my chair. Does she know about the postnup? I doubt it. Based on the text messages, Daniel's been telling her he's going to divorce you and they'll be together. He's been promising her the world he's about to lose 60% of. Exactly. On Monday morning, Jessica Monroe showed up at my office. Veronica buzzed me. "Claire, there's a Jessica Monroe here without an appointment. She's quite insistent." "Send her in." Jessica walked into my office looking exactly like what she was. A 28-year-old woman who'd believed a married man's lies and was now realizing the consequences. She was pretty. I could see why Daniel had been attracted to her. But she was also young and scared, and I almost felt sorry for her. "Almost. Mrs. Donovan, I need to talk to you." "Sit down, Jessica." She sat, hands folded in her lap. "I know about the divorce. Daniel told me he was going to leave you. He said you two had an agreement, that it would be amicable, that he'd ride off into the sunset with you and his tech millions." Her face flushed. "I didn't know he was married when we started. Not at first. He told me he lied. That's what Daniel does. He's very good at it. I'm pregnant. Congratulations." Jessica's eyes filled with tears. "This isn't how this was supposed to go. He said he loved me. He said we'd be together. He said, let me guess. He said once the divorce was finalized, you two would get married, maybe buy a house in the suburbs, raise the baby together, live happily ever after." She nodded. "Jessica, I'm going to tell you something that's going to save you a lot of heartache. When this divorce is finalized, Daniel is going to have about 40% of a $70 million company, which sounds like a lot until you factor in that he'll owe taxes, legal fees, and quite possibly child support to you. He'll have his salary, but the majority of his net worth will be in stock he can't easily liquidate. He's going to be cash poor and stressed and looking for someone to blame." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying the man you fell in love with, the successful CEO with the big house and the nice cars, that man is about to lose most of what made him attractive." You're going to be left with a bitter, broke baby daddy who resents you for getting pregnant at the worst possible time. Jessica stood up. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to help you. But you're 28 and in love, so you won't listen. That's fine. You'll figure it out in about 6 months when he's 3 months behind on child support and blaming you for ruining his life. She left without another word. Rachel poked her head in 10 minutes later. How'd that go? She'll leave him by August. I bet money on it. You're cold, Claire? I'm realistic. The settlement conference was scheduled for April 25th at the Cook County Courthouse. I wore my best suit navy Tom Ford, the one I bought when I made partner. I wanted to look like exactly what I was, someone who'd won before she even walked into the room. Daniel showed up with Stephen Kraft. He looked terrible. Thinner, pale, dark circles under his eyes. We sat on opposite sides of a conference table with a mediator between us. The mediator, a retired judge named Patricia Holloway, opened the file. We're here to discuss the dissolution of marriage between Claire Donovan and Daniel Donovan. I've reviewed the postnuptial agreement dated June 15, 2021. Mr. Kraft, you've acknowledged this agreement is valid and enforceable? Stephen nodded. Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Donovan, you're admitting to marital infidelity as defined in the agreement? Daniel glanced at me, then at the mediator. Yes. Then the asset division is quite clear. Mrs. Pien. Donovan is entitled to 60% of CloudSync Solutions, the marital residence, and the specified percentages of retirement and investment accounts. Mr. Kraft, is your client prepared to comply with these terms? Stephen turned to Daniel. Daniel's jaw was tight, but he nodded. Yes, Your Honor. We're prepared to settle according to the postnuptial agreement terms. Judge Holloway made notes. Very well. Mrs. Donovan, do you have anything to add? No, Your Honor. I'm satisfied with the terms of the agreement I negotiated 3 years ago. Daniel flinched at that. We signed the settlement agreement that afternoon. I got 60% of CloudSync Solutions' total company value $70 million, my share worth $42 million. The Lincoln Park townhouse valued at $2.3 million, 70% of our retirement accounts, totaling $623,000, 65% of our investment accounts, totaling $570,500. Daniel got 40% of CloudSync Solutions, worth $28 million, 30% of retirement accounts, $267,000, 35% of investment accounts, $111,500. The satisfaction of knowing he played himself as we walked out of the courthouse. Daniel caught up to me on the steps. Claire, wait. I stopped. I'm sorry. For all of it. The affairs, the lies, the divorce papers. I don't know what I thought. You thought you could have everything. The company, the mistress, the freedom. And you thought I'd just quietly accept whatever scraps you offered me. I forgot about the postnup. I genuinely forgot. I know. That's the most insulting part. You forgot about the contract you signed after you destroyed my trust. You forgot about the consequences you agreed to. You forgot that I'm not someone who gets blindsided twice. What happens now? Now? You figure out how to run a company where I own 60%. You figure out what to tell Jessica when she realizes you're not the prize she thought you were. You figure out how to be a father to a child you made while blowing up your marriage. And I go back to my life. Are you happy now that you've won? My gaze fixed on him, this man I'd loved, supported, forgiven, and finally outsmarted. I'm not happy, Daniel, but I'm protected. And 3 years ago, that's all I wanted. I walked away. 6 months later, it's October 2024 now, and here's where everyone ended up. Daniel still runs CloudSync, but I own 60% of it. I have a seat on the board. I don't interfere with daily operations, but every major decision goes through me. The company is thriving, which means my 60% is now worth about $50 million. He tried to buy me out once, offered me $35 million cash for my shares. I said no. Why not? He asked over email. You don't even want to be involved in the company. Because every time you have to get my approval on a decision, you remember what it cost you to underestimate me. That's worth more than $35 million. Jessica left him in August, exactly when I predicted. She's raising the baby in Indianapolis near her parents. Daniel pays child support. They're not on speaking terms. He's dating someone new, according to Rachel's sources, a venture capitalist who's helping him plan CloudSync's Series C funding. I hope he's learned his lesson, but I doubt it. As for me, I'm still at Morrison and Fletcher, still building my practice, still closing deals. I sold the Lincoln Park townhouse for $2.5 million and bought a penthouse in Streeterville with a view of Lake Michigan that makes me happy every single morning. I'm dating someone, a constitutional law professor at Northwestern. He's brilliant, kind, and he thinks the Postnup story is the most romantic thing he's ever heard. You protected yourself, he said on our third date. You didn't burn everything down in anger, you just made sure you'd be okay if it happened again. Is that romantic? It's practical. Practical is romantic. Maybe he's right. Here's what I learned from all of this. When someone shows you who they are the first time, believe them. But also protect yourself. Love doesn't mean being stupid. Forgiveness doesn't mean being unprepared. I gave Daniel a second chance, but I didn't give it blindly. I gave it with my eyes open and a contract in my hand. When he failed again, and part of me always knew he would, I wasn't destroyed. I was prepared. The postnuptial agreement wasn't about revenge. It was about making sure that if my marriage ended, I wouldn't end with it. And when Daniel slid those divorce papers across the table, thinking he'd figured out how to leave me with nothing, he learned something important. You can't con a contracts attorney, especially not one who's already 3 years ahead of you. If this story resonates with you, I want to hear from you. Have you ever protected yourself legally in a relationship? Have you ever prepared for the worst while hoping for the best? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. And if you've ever been underestimated by someone who thought you wouldn't see them coming, hit that subscribe button. Turn on notifications. I share stories like this every week, stories about people who played the long game and won. Tell me, what's the smartest move you ever made to protect yourself? Let's celebrate preparation over panic. Thank you for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next one.